In this episode of This Week in Photo, it's all about the mystery of Fujifilm. This is TWiP. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of what makes Fuji so magical and why the people that use and shoot Fuji love it so much. I mean, it's almost like a religion or a political party or something. People love Fuji that shoot it. Some people love having all the gear. Some people just get one piece of gear or one camera and they shoot the heck out of it. We've got both sides of the spectrum represented today with Wayne Johns and Valerie Jardin. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hey.
This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. Can you guess who's the single body person of the crew? it's the person. It's the person with the French uniform over there. Hey, Valerie.
That's right. Hey, I'm wearing my French shirt just for you. I should have worn my beret too, but I didn't want to push it that far.
Don't make me bring a mime picture up. I'm just saying. I could do my wall here. Don't make me do the wall. Yeah, there you go. Wayne and I could just do the wall, just to make you feel at home, Valerie. Right. I got some baguettes back there too. All right, so Valerie, let's start with you. Let's just do quick intros. Introduce yourself, and you're at a cocktail party, and somebody says, "Hey, Valerie, who are you? What do you do?"
I'm a photographer. I was a commercial photographer for many years, and about 7 years ago, I quit my commercial business and started teaching workshops exclusively. Went from one workshop 1 year to 9 the following year, and it's been about 12 a year now, and all over the world. Having so much fun, loving every minute of it. Most people know me for my street photography, although I don't just teach street photography. It's all about visual storytelling. Nice. And seeing photographically. But what else do I do? I have a weekly podcast.
Thank you for mentioning that. I was like, is she going to mention the podcast? Come on.
I write books. I speak at conferences. And what else do I do? I teach webinars. And it's all about photography.
And I love having you on because, like I said, I say it tongue in cheek that that you're the sort of the Luddite of the crew, but you are. It's not so much being a Luddite. You don't let gear get in your way, and you get out there and you enjoy the environment and the process of shooting, and you shoot primarily with one camera that we're going to talk about. So
that's right.
And it happens to be Fuji. So welcome back to the show, Valerie.
Thank you.
All right, Wayne Johns is here for the first time. Welcome to This Week in Photo, man. This is your first time.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Go give us your elevator pitch or your coffee or over coffee pitch when someone says, "What do you do, Wayne Johns?" What do you tell them?
Over coffee pitch. Yeah. Well, likewise, I'm a photographer. I'm a fashion, beauty, and advertising photographer, so I'm still very commercial. Although I have pulled back a little bit from that in recent years. And I educate. I also do video and cinematography as well. So I'm still quite heavily in the commercial world, but, just dropping off a little bit to focus on some other projects so I can just let off the gas a little bit and do more fun things in life. Already, I want to change places with Valerie, Yeah. That sounds like... Damn, she's done it like 7 years ago. Why didn't I do that like 7 years ago? I'd be so much happier.
Yeah, well, hey, it's the choices we make. Well, let's switch gears, and I want to do just a little bit of housekeeping and talk about the things that you're up to, and we'll transition to Valerie. So some of your sort of new and notables, the projects that you have going on right now. What's going on in your world?
In my world or Valerie's?
Yours. Go ahead. Yeah.
In my world. Well, I'm about to dive a bit more into the workshop world. I mean, I've been asked by a lot of people for probably 4 years plus, do you do any fashion and beauty workshops? Because I am predominantly fashion, beauty, and advertising is my sort of genre, so my direction commercially. Do you do it? And I said, yeah, I'm going to do them next year. So, the time's come, and I've just got to make the effort and give the people what they've been asking for several years. So yeah, I'm working on that here in the UK. Obviously, that'll be a worldwide thing as well. I've had requests in many other countries to do them. So I'm currently putting the package together for that, for some upcoming workshops. And I'm working on a personal project, which is I can't say too much about it, because if I let it out of the bag, then it won't be a surprise project, and then it won't be successful, and then someone else might do it before I get to finish it. So
okay.
All I can say that it involves beards, it involves photo shooting in a studio, it involves putting together a series for an exhibition, and it involves beautiful women. How about that for cryptic?
That is very cryptic. All right, you're coming back on the show later to talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you can't drop bombs like that and then moonwalk off into the distance without telling us what's going on.
When you see the images, some of the images, it's going to play with your mind. That's all I can say. And then on top of that, I'm about to launch a new podcast as well called Podlomania. And that is a photo and video podcast. And that is primarily going to be fulfilled with interviewing guests from both the photographic and video cinematography world.
Nice.
And that's global. So pilot episode is coming out in the next week or so. And the rest of the podcast interviews are stacking up at the moment for edit and release. So those names will be dropping out on the launch when it goes on iTunes and SoundCloud and such like. So
I'll look for my invitation.
Yeah, I'll look for my invitation.
Yeah.
Congratulations from two veteran podcasters. Welcome to the family, man.
Thank you.
Very cool. Well, Valerie, what do you get? Kind of give us a glimpse of what you got going on, but give us a Reader's Digest of what's coming up on your radar.
Well, I've been going back and forth to Europe about once a month the past year or two. And I actually bought property back in my homeland again. So I'm spending more and more time there. So
back in Normandy, right? Normandy.
Yes, I have a piece of home again, which feels so good after living in the U.S. for so long.
Valerie is storming Normandy. I love it.
And so I spend, so whenever I'm teaching in Paris, then I make a side trip to my new place on the coast and visit family. And it's been good. I've been working on some new books and working on a project now for over a year with Joshua Coombs, hashtag Do Something for Nothing, where I do photo documentary of his work on the streets of the world, taking care of homeless people, cutting hair of homeless people, which is, I think he's in India right now. We had a big exhibit in Minneapolis over the summer. We actually even worked on the streets of Minneapolis. We covered New York, Paris. Next will be San Francisco and London in the plans for next year, to continue the work together, and more exhibits, as well as a big book. Right now we have ebooks that are fundraisers for him, and we want to do a big book with all those stories of several cities.
Very cool. Well, congratulations. You both are very busy, and you're making money with your Shutterfinger, which is some of the stuff we want to dive into, which is no easy task these days, right? So let's dive in today's, and Valerie, I'm going to say this for you. Normally I try not to speak French, but because I suck at it. So we're going to dive into today's topic du jour. Did I say that right? Is that right?
Good.
All right. Du jour, escargot,
I have a picture of you eating escargot,
by the way, yeah, I had my first escargot, snails, with Valerie on the streets of Paris. So, yeah. So that's what better way to enjoy escargot for the first time with a Parisian in Paris. Come on, So, yeah. So let's dive into this. So, guys, the topic of this, our topic du jour, is Fuji and sort of the mystery. And that's kind of tongue in cheek because it's not really mysterious, but in a lot of ways, to people that don't shoot Fuji, we hear when we come across people that do shoot Fuji, there's a level of irrational exuberance, let's say, that comes from them. Love of the brand, love of the camera. And personally, having done this for so long, I kind of have not an issue with it, but I have to separate, like, is this real? Is your adoration for the brand and the camera and the look and all that, is that real? Is it digital Stockholm syndrome? Is it, what is it behind that? So hopefully both of you guys can help me get to the bottom of it. Valerie, let's start with you. That's the underlying question for all this. Is there is there some sort of magic that drew you personally into the Fuji brand from wherever you were before?
Well, I was a Canon shooter before, and it was an amazing camera. My last DSLR was a 5D Mark II, so it was quite a few years ago. And I was kind of phasing out my photography business and going towards doing workshops full time. And then I discovered the X100S. I didn't have the X100. I started with the S. And I loved it. I mean, it was, at first it was so foreign, and I decided to just put the other one aside and just shoot with that new camera exclusively. And I could not go back to the Canon. After a few weeks, I sold it. I just sold that, all my L lenses overnight.
Was it happenstance that you fell into the Fuji, or could you be saying the same thing if it had been a Sony camera, for example?
Well, I tried a couple other cameras. I tried actually a Sony. And nothing felt right. Then I would always go back to my Canon until I got that camera with the dials, and it was something about the camera, the way it felt in my hand. It wasn't plasticky, because I felt there's nothing wrong with Sony, but the few that I had tried, the Alpha series, felt really light and plasticky. And I was used to something, that had some weight in my hand.
Heft, yeah.
And so when I tried the Fuji, and it's a metal body, it's heavy for its size. It just felt like, hey, I've got something. It feels like a real camera, and not a toy. And then I took it to Iceland. My first that's the only camera with its fixed lens that I took to Iceland for my first trip to Iceland for a few days, and then on to Europe. And I had that camera for probably 2 months straight without anything else right after I bought it. And I never missed my Canon. I mean, it was ready to go, and I left it behind at the last minute. And when I came back, I could not use it. And I really felt that year, that summer, I did my best work so far. And I feel like the limitations from that camera, from that, I stepped up my game. I really do feel that was kind of the aha moment.
And that's interesting, and that's what I want to dive into with both of you guys, is that aha moment, that point of inflection where you're like, you know what, because for a lot of us, that use, not you, well, Wayne, probably you, because you're not exclusive to the X100 fixed lens series, but for a lot of us that use interchangeable lens cameras, the camera and the stuff that we need to shoot wherever we're going dictates how we pack in a lot of ways, right? With Valerie, not so much, right? A couple batteries, a charger, and it's in the bag, and you're gone, and it could be any trip. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Wayne, what about you? What was your point of inflection that was sort of like, at Fuji's for me, and sort of with that question, with the point of inflection question, in the best way you can, describe why you feel like that the Fuji magic is superior to other cameras for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I come back from the days of changing over back to when the X Pro 1 came in. So, that's the rangefinder style originally. And I bought one of those as a personal carry around, because I never used to carry a camera around a lot. I was a Canon shooter as well for like 23 years. So, I was DSLR and medium format a lot in my industry, as medium format, which it still is. But I never used to really carry my Canons. I was 5D2, 5D3, and 1D series. And, they're big lumps to carry around. So when I had the X Pro 1 as a little carry-around camera, I really enjoyed using it. The image quality, the black and whites were just beautiful. For me, it resembled a very filmic look, which is hard to explain if you've never shot film to those people that have only ever shot digital.
Yeah.
So I had that sort of romantic attachment back to it straight away from there. And then, of course, the XT1 came out, which is the same sensor, but in the DSLR style, if you want to call it that, but obviously much smaller. So intrigued with the the color accuracy coming out of the Fuji systems, obviously because they're renowned for their film stock back in the film days. So they've got color history that spans decades.
Yeah, Velvia.
So when
yeah.
Velvia, Asti, yeah, all those kind of things. Yeah, you name it. So out of intrigue, I bought an XT1 and then started dropping it on the end of my commercial shoots against my Canons. Oh, not against my Canons, but on the end, just to see how it would perform in a commercial environment. Because I was intrigued to see if, as much as I liked that camera, could it work for me commercially as a tool and serve my clients just as well as my current Canon gear. And it just blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. I was doing like-for-like comparisons, Canon 5D3 full frame against an XT1 16 megapixel APS-C. And my Fuji straight out of camera was more color accurate. And my lenses were sharper to edge than my Canons were.
Yeah.
And I was L series glass, so 7200, Mark II, L series 2.8, 85 1.2, that kind of thing. And the Fuji 51-42.8 just smashed my 7200 out of the park at the time.
Yeah, see, and that's one of the things. So one of the questions that's coming up in the chat room right now is from one of our TWiP members, Stephen Scharf, and Stephen says, I'm gonna bring this on the screen here. You guys can't see it, but they can, and I can. But Stephen said, Fujifilm cameras understands what resonates with photographers from the perspective of camera design. They figured out what appealed to photographers emotionally and psychologically. So I hear that. Hear that, and I'm not going to disagree with it, but at the same time, are you saying, Stephen, and both of you guys, are you saying that the Panasonics, the Nikons, the Sonys, they haven't figured out what appealed to photographers psychologically and emotionally, or has Fuji found a different nerve to dance on? What do you guys think?
Well, to me, when what I loved about the Fuji right away is that I could spend the whole day without looking into a menu. Everything was at my fingertips, and that's the point. I mean, as I shoot street photography, which is the hardest thing you're going to shoot, out there, because you have that fraction of a second to capture that moment that's never going to happen again. You need to be able to work fast. And if I have to go into a menu, it's like, forget it. Yeah. I need dials. I need to be able to turn dials without even looking at the camera. I have to completely forget that I have the camera in my hand, and it becomes extension of me and my vision. And I had that with the Fuji, very quickly. I mean, I was shooting street photography with my Canon, and I knew my Canon really well, and I could use it that way. But the Fuji gave me that very quickly, in a smaller camera, completely silent. I mean, it was a no-brainer for the type of photography that I was mostly shooting at that point. I shoot JPEG. I shot RAW, I think, the first year I had Fuji, and then I figured out why. I realized why. Yeah. Why am I even shooting RAW anymore? It's ridiculous, There is no reason. Why do I can get it right in camera, in JPEGs from this camera without having to do pretty much anything in post-processing. I mean, I don't spend 5 seconds on a picture, so why would I bother with raw files? So, and I could never shoot JPEG from Canon, and never looked this good. So
no, I agree there. I mean, Canon have good color as well. They've got very good color, which I used to love. But I don't know. I think Fuji, when the mirrorless system started coming in, I think they did a lot of things right very early on, which pleased a lot of people. They brought a mirrorless system into the modern world of big, heavy, chunky, expensive DSLRs. They brought in this little compact unit that packs an amazing punch in terms of image quality and performance. Yet it's small, it's light, it's cheaper, it's more compact. It's got that romantic analog-looking feel to it from the film days, but it's fully packed with digital creativity.
Yeah.
And I think they got that right very early on, before a lot of the Panasonics and Sonys were more attractive like they are today.
Yeah. Well, Wayne, describe that. Describe that. You talk about the sort of the mix of analog and digital and how they got that right. Be more specific. How did they get that right?
Well, I think it's straight away, like Valerie was saying, it's the ergonomics straight away. You've got the old top dials. You've got the dials that we used to have on film cameras. Obviously those people that haven't shot film wouldn't have had that benefit. But, you go back to my Canon and probably Valerie's Canon, especially on the 5D, we had the rear thumb dial and we had for our apertures and we had another dial on the front. But Fuji have gone completely analog sort of setup. Our apertures are on our lens ring, like they used to be. But we've got all the speed, the accuracy, the performance, the quality, the output of a digital system in an analog feeling body.
Yeah.
And likewise, like Valerie's saying, Fujifilm with their film simulation modes, Fuji are renowned for the amazing quality of their JPEGs straight out of camera. I mean, I still don't shoot JPEGs in my commercial work because in fashion and beauty, you've only got a bit more retouching to do. So I need the dynamic scale for that. But I know a lot of colleagues and friends that do shoot commercial work with the JPEGs and film simulation modes. And I've seen prints like 60 inches by 40. And then they've gone, yeah, straight out of camera JPEG simulation mode. And it blew me away. Wow. I've been using them for years.
That's crazy.
So I think they've just got a lot right. Their color science is right. Sony is still not quite there on the stills for color science, and Sony menus, as we all know, they're better now, but they used to be messy as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, their video cameras are messy as hell for menu systems. You need to be a brain surgeon to get through that stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll throw this
on workshops, it's confusing when I have to help a student, go through their whatever they have, Olympus or Sony and something. I'm like, oh boy, it's just all menu and it's so foreign. But I try to help them out. But yeah, I can see how for me, if I had to go through menus all day long just to change anything, it would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Well,
me too.
I'm hearing from both of you guys that you're not necessarily as dependent on the raw format or having that latitude and flexibility in post as many other people are today, or even as people used to be back in the, just a couple of years ago. It was all about RAW versus JPEG and, all the analogies of, hey, do you want your camera to bake your cake for you, or you just want the ingredients,
like
coffee. So
yeah,
you
exactly.
can put it together. So are both of you guys saying that the era of RAW is over because cameras have kind of evolved to the point where they're getting it right and we don't have to fix their work after the fact? Valerie, why don't you take it first and then Wayne, you jump in.
It is for me. I haven't shot RAW in years, so I wouldn't even know what to do with it.
That's awesome.
It's been seriously at least 3 or 4 years since I've shot a RAW file.
Wow.
There's no regret. I mean, why would I bother shooting RAW and going into Lightroom to get Adobe's rendition of Classic Chrome or Acros when I can get it right in camera?
Well, I feel like because the answer to that quick question, then I want to have you go on, is because the answer to that is because we want the insurance, right? So if you're shooting a scene
safety blanket.
Yeah, or maybe not even safety blanket. Maybe it's more of, okay, I need to use this technology because I want this scene and the highlights are blown out in that window or in the sky, or the shadows are too dark. But I know in post later, if I shoot RAW, I can bring them out or something like that, right? You don't hit that at all, Valerie?
I love blown out highlights. In street, it's awesome.
Awesome. I love my food over salted.
If I'm shooting a silhouette and there is a car behind the silhouette, it's going to be just as distracting as if it was right in front of it. So if it's blown out, that's even better.
Yeah.
And I like my shadows to be nice and deep. I would hate, actually, it's one of my pet peeves, is when I see people bring out details from the shadows. I'm like, no, you're killing the mood. Leave those shadows really deep. So I would have no use for a RAW file for the type of work I do. Absolutely no use.
Wow.
It's interesting, and I think it depends on what type of work you do, what type of photographer you are. What your industry is, who you're feeding with your images, who your clients are, where it's going. I think that is a varied scale now. And like Valerie just shoots JPEG. I know other people that shoot JPEG and they shoot the RAW as a backup.
Yeah.
I mean, when did that happen?
Yeah. Well, that's
You know,
what
it always
RAW
used to
plus
be.
JPEG. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
now it's JPEG plus RAW.
it used to be the backup. It used to be the reverse, right? It used to be like, I'm going to shoot RAW and I'm going to have this. Well, the way that I shoot would be I'll shoot RAW plus JPEG. And if I'm somewhere that I want to share the image, I'll have the cameras rendered a JPEG for me to transfer to my phone and I can share it. Right? So that's kind of the rationale. But I still, when I bring everything in Lightroom and edit it in Lightroom, and I'm editing the raw files. Like if I go through them, like, oh, that's a keeper, then I'll have a pick selection, and I'll go in and pick those and do my edits, and I'm editing from the raw data. Very rarely, unless at gunpoint, will I edit a JPEG. And Valerie, you don't even do that, right? You're not even.
No, I don't do raw. No,
Man, I'm in the wrong job. That sounds just such a nice life.
It does sound nice, doesn't it?
Seriously, I don't even. I mean, I use my tablet now with the Lightroom app. You know, that's how I look at my pictures because they're just fine. I add tiny bit of clarity and a -15 vignette, and that's it.
And you're done.
So,
you're done. Yeah.
I don't even need to add anything.
That's it. I quit.
But you know what?
Done.
And
What
then
about
it
you're
makes
done?
and the whole point is to get it right in camera.
Yeah.
So, if I need to crop, it's going to be very, very minimal because my job is to get it right before I click the shutter, or I'm not doing my job right.
Yeah. Clyde S in the chat room says, let's bring it up. Clyde says the insurance of post-processing can be a crutch.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree with that? Like, I don't know, because it's like a crutch.
You don't have it.
That's like saying a
degree.
horse. That's like saying, relying on these gas-powered vehicles is a crutch. You should. The horse and buggy is the true way to travel, right? Right.
I think you should be out there with more intent and pretend you don't have the post-processing tool. You should never think, oh, I'm going to crop that later. No, just do it in camera. Then
see, that's where
part of the merit.
That's where our industries differ. And Valerie will probably know this from when she was a commercial photographer anyway. Sometimes our clients are not as easy as we would like them to be commercially.
Yeah.
So we may get a client as we're doing a commercial shoot in the studio, and they'll go, yeah, and they'll make their selections. I like. Then at the end of the day, they've had a bit of a second thought about one image. You go, I'm not so sure about this one. Can we crop it down a little bit? I don't like the negative space on the right-hand side, and I want to put the copy in here for the magazine. So then we have to crop it down. So in a commercial world, I'm sure Valerie would have experienced that. That's where our worlds now differ. Valerie's escaped that burden.
I don't miss that at all.
Don't miss that at all. Which is why I shoot predominantly medium format, because I'll get clients that will suddenly want to crop 30% off an image.
Yeah.
But in medium format, I've still got the file size and sensor size to still give a 35 meg file after 30% crop.
And you can't predict that. You just have
you
to
can predict that.
No, I totally get it. I shoot for me. I don't have to compromise with anyone. I'm the only person I need to please. So I'm in a good place. But I remember those days. I don't miss them at all. But I get it.
Yeah.
Damn, you're a good.
Wayne, you're what are you shooting in studio when you're doing your commercial work? Is it RAW plus JPEG only, or what?
No, I generally just shoot RAW because if I'm in studio, majority of the time I'm shooting tethered anyway. So up until recently, I've had to shoot tethered especially with medium format into Lightroom. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Lightroom with Fuji files in terms of RAW. I'm speaking. I just think that Lightroom made it a file that they accepted for tethered shooting, but didn't kind of fine tune all the knobs properly to make the raw files look their best in Lightroom. I'm a Capture One Pro guy, so I'm Capture One Pro through and through. And recently, Fujifilm have now joined forces, and Capture One now accept Fujifilm medium format cameras for tethered shooting. The only other medium format brand in the world.
You must have been doing a little moonwalk when you heard that news, right?
I tell you what, I was at Photokina in Germany, 25th to the 28th, doing the show there because I'm also an ARRI ambassador. So I was there for ARRI, and the press release came for Capture One Pro for GFX, and I literally, because I got a Capture One Pro subscription monthly, and I was literally in my hotel room at 2 a.m. in the morning downloading the damn software and plugging my GFX in to see how it worked, and it's beautiful, man. I've been fighting for years to get this, with the two companies. So. For me, yeah, studio, tethered shooting, raw, straight into raw capture, into Capture One, or previously it was Lightroom. So that's GFX, and then I shoot XT2 and XT3. Now the XT3's out, but I was XT2 in studio. Yeah.
Now, what about Wayne? If you could, I want to put you on the spot here a little bit, right? So we've already established that Valerie is not you're not up on all the specs of all the Fuji cameras that are out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I have an X Pro 2. That's my backup.
Okay, you got a backup.
And guess what focal length I have on it?
So for
the same as the 23.
Oh, good grief! All right.
Well, it's my weather sealed kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for the people that aren't in the Fuji camp and aren't familiar with all the different brands and what you get or the model numbers and what you get and what you give up, Wayne, can you take us through just sort of you're standing in a camera store and there's a bunch of Fuji cameras there. What is the path of ascension from, I believe it's an X100F is sort of entry level, right? Then all the way up through to medium format.
Well, I wouldn't say the X100F is entry level. I mean, you've got other ones below that. You've got like the old X70s, which are below that. So they're smaller, electronic viewfinder only. I mean, the X100F is the latest 24 megapixel sensor that the XT2 has got.
Oh, wow.
So that's the only difference being is that's in a rangefinder style body with a fixed lens. So I think when you get to that sort of level, X100F, I think it's whether you like a rangefinder style camera or whether you'd like the XT2, which would be its sort of comparative, in a DSLR style camera. So I think it's really ergonomics and body design, which one you like better out of those two.
But the guts and the processor and the sensor are identical?
Pretty much the same. I mean, the XT2 has other advantages in the film side of things, which it's got other things unlocked for video functionality and 4K film and stuff like that, which the X100 has in it, but not to the levels that the XT2 has. And things with the XT2, obviously, you can have a vertical grip on there as well, which you can't with the rangefinder style cameras. And you got a pull-out screen on the XT2. But obviously, XT2 you only have an electronic viewfinder, whereas X100 you have the optical and electronic. So
I wouldn't call it a entry level camera. I think its limitations make it a much more challenging camera to use than an XT1, 2, or 3, which is something people are more familiar with to start. You really have to get used to the limitations, and it's not for everyone.
Yeah,
I always point that out. It's not an easy camera to get used to if you come from a DSLR.
Yeah, and the same with anything, isn't it, Valerie? It's when you change systems, you got to allow time to digest your system, learn your system, find out what everything is in your system, in the menus, the ergonomics, what the buttons do, what they don't do, how your camera works at its best, the same as you would with a previous system.
Yep.
I think people don't allow enough time if they're changing systems to get to know their new system.
That's why I never change.
And a lot of that is, I like to say on the show a lot that photographers are afflicted with the or disease, right? It's if I get this camera or even this brand, I can't get anything else. Even if you restrict yourself to one line, you don't have to. You could get an X100F and use that for certain kinds of photography, and then also get an interchangeable lens version. And if you can stomach it, like Wayne, get a medium format version.
Mine's a commercial tool.
Yeah, it's commercial. Well, tell us about that camera, because that's the top end, the best Fuji has to offer in terms of, well, not the best because that's relative, right? But in terms of relative, like professional and price wise, it's the most expensive as well, right?
Yeah, indeed. It's medium format. I mean, people argue, it's not full frame medium format, but really in the film days, anything over 35mm is medium format. It doesn't matter what size medium format is, 645, 66, 67, 69, it's still medium format.
Yeah.
There's just variants of medium format. So it's their medium format beast, if you want to call it that. Obviously, they're currently still only, from what I'm aware, 2 manufacturers in the world that do mirrorless medium format. And that is Hasselblad with the X1D. They were the first to launch. And then Fujifilm with the GFX. So, the system is smaller than it ever used to be. I come from Hasselblad and Leica medium format. in the digital age. And the GFX is about the same size and weight as it's about the same weight as a Canon 5D. Yeah. It's about 800, just over 800 grams. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
And price-wise, you compare it to something like a Phase 1 IQ 250, which is still a big, blocky beast of a camera. That thing's what, 16,000, 18,000, depends, especially. And the GFX is 5,999. 599. Yeah. That's the same price as a 1D Mark II, barring about $400. And now, of course, they brought out the GFX-R, which is £1,000 cheaper, but the same insides, but in a rangefinder style body. I mean, medium format has never been so cheap or amazing in quality. So it's like Valerie's X100, but larger.
How do you choose, though? How do you choose for the novice that's like, you know what, I've been hearing so much about Fuji. It's amazing. I'm going to go get a Fuji camera. But now they're watching this video and I'm like, well, Valerie says I can get everything done with an X100F shooting in JPEG with the internal looks and I'm done. Wayne is telling me I got to drop 5 figures in order to...
No, you haven't. You haven't got to drop 5 figures. I mean, in the commercial world, we use it for purpose, and people got to remember that it's a tool for us. If my medium format is not earning me money, then it's a pointless tool in my toolbox.
Yeah.
But it does, and it serves its purpose, and the quality and its size of imagery serves its purpose in my commercial world. Does the average Joe need that in their toolbox? No. Would they like it? Of course they would.
Sure.
Would they want it? Of course they do. It doesn't mean they need it. It doesn't make you a better photographer. It's like when I do guest lectures at fashion universities around the globe, I have to tell the fashion students that when you're creating something, the camera's the last thing to come out of your bag. And when you create something, make it look beautiful in front of you, because then when you capture it on a $300 Canon or a $30,000 Hasselblad, it's going to look beautiful in both. But if it looks crap in front of you, it's going to look crap in both cameras.
Right.
But it's going to look $30,000 of crap.
Right. That's the You're going to feel even worse about it.
It's still going to look crap, It's not going to make you better. So, no. So for people starting out, you don't need to drop 5 figures. Cameras and technology is so good nowadays. Yeah. Cameras are amazing of all brands. They've come such a long way.
Yeah.
There is no bad camera. I mean, it's just people have to get something that they feel right for them. And I think, people are passionate about their Fujifilm cameras, but I don't think we're more passionate about them than the Olympus people are passionate about theirs. I think it's just whatever you're used to, whatever works for you. Yeah. It really doesn't matter. I mean, there's no bad camera. They're just bad photographers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I mean, that's the quote of the day right there.
Yeah.
That's the quote of the day.
Yeah, 100%.
And you cannot blame your photography on the camera.
Yeah.
Period.
Not nowadays. Not nowadays.
No. Yeah. No, well, people, humans in general, look for excuses for their own ineptitude, right? So.
Always. I mean, you get people now going, it's not doing what I wanted it to do. It's out of focus when I was following that race car around the track. I mean, man, we used to shoot that on film with a single frame and get it in shot,
Right. Yeah. Go look at some old photography books and see what they were doing with 2 rocks and a rusty nail, right?
I don't know. Exactly. I don't know one photographer who uses their camera to its full potential.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah. I don't use everything that my camera's got.
No,
I'm on manual mode. I'm altering my shutter speed, my ISO, my aperture, and that's it.
Maybe I need to actually read the manual on mine.
Yeah, or maybe not. You might be like, wait,
maybe not.
What have I been missing all this time? Well, hey guys, let's switch gears and talk a little bit about looks, the Fuji looks, right? And that's one of those things that people glom onto, and it's sort of ethereal. In fact, a couple of years ago, I had some representatives from Leica on, trying to describe that whole Leica look, right? It's like, it's indescribable. And part of me was like, it's made from shavings from unicorn horns, right? It's not real. It's not real. You're just telling me that it's real. Yeah. And then, if I buy one, I'm going to say, yep, it's real because I invested in it, right? Yeah. But, if you guys can help me understand the Fuji look, because, I know you could say, it's just, they render colors better or differently or whatever, but scientifically help me understand it. Is it they're within the camera, they're adding a little bit of notch of clarity and saturation, or is it that they're more color accurate out of the camera with a color JPEG? You can look at it next to the real world and it's like, oh yeah, it's close. what is it? Like, Valerie, let's start with you. What is the Fuji look?
Well, for color, I only shoot classic chrome, and classic chrome is very unique. And whenever I'm on, when Fujifilm has nothing to do with my workshop. That's my brand, 100%. I could care less what people shoot with. They can bring their Leica, their phones, whatever. So It really doesn't matter to me. So
I brought Panasonic on your workshop, just
Yeah, I mean, there are probably out of 10 photographers, there will be 4 or 5 different brands. Occasionally, I still have a DSLR in there, which is getting really rare. But and that's totally fine. When people say, "Oh, should I get a Fuji?" I'm like, "Why? Doesn't your camera work?" I'm the last person who will tell someone, "Oh, yeah, buy a Fujifilm." No, buy whatever you have will work for what you want to do. Don't get a new camera unless it's broken. But whenever we look at and there are always some Fujifilm shooters, of course, since I shoot Fuji, it's natural that more people who like my work will want to shoot the same type of camera. And so there are usually more Fujifilm than any other brand. But everybody who sees the classic chrome coming out of the camera from a Fuji is like, wow. This alone would make me want to switch to that brand just for the classic chrome color. It is special. So,
And I wonder, and Wayne, I want to have you chime in on that, obviously, as well. But I wonder, what the question from myself is, and I have full disclosure, I used to work at Adobe, 7 years ago, and on the Lightroom team. So speaking with the color scientists over there and the people that are developing the raw processing software, all that stuff. So what I think, looking at a conversation like this through that lens is, okay, and I'm sure a lot of people think this as well, like why would I entrust my look or my rendering? This is kind of back to that, do you want to bake the cake or get the ingredients thing, right? Why would I entrust that responsibility to the engineers at Fujifilm versus them just giving me the best that this hardware that I paid for can offer and let me render it and make my look from it or use some presets or whatever on it to get to that look? Like, why would I do that? Wayne, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Well, they're actually giving you all of that you're asking for. They're giving you the image in the best quality they can give you in a standard mode so that you can apply your own presets and color grade and shift it as you want to make it your image and how you see it in your mind or how you want it to go. But they're also giving you a little collection of simulation modes that they've put in these digital cameras that are from the film stock days that people like myself, where I come from the film days. As soon as we see those film simulation modes in those cameras, like, in the fashion world, I used to shoot a lot of Velvia, and I shot Velvia when I was doing a campaign the other day with a Ferrari, and the model was wearing like yellow latex, and I shot that as the sun was going down with Velvia, and the colors just popped. They
was a red Ferrari with yellow latex?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I need to see that.
Yeah. With the sun going down and that just, the saturation of those colors and the contrast just absolutely popped. And it just took me back to the days when I used to shoot Velvia film. So I've got that relationship where I can connect.
Yeah.
But it's giving you all these options to have all these different looks that have been engineered by the experts at Fujifilm who did the original engineering. Because, in the original days when we shot film, we didn't change a lot of that in post. If we wanted a desired look, we would choose our desired film stock. Yeah. If we wanted saturation and saturated colors, we'd go Velvia. If we wanted softer skin tones, we'd go Astia. You choose your film stock to suit. Now it's all in a digital age. You don't need to do that. So Fuji are giving you the best of the refined image for you to play with. And then they're giving you a beautiful selection, which they've crafted. And to add to that, something I learned at Photokina, the chap at Fuji that was part of the development team for the original film stock is still working at Fujifilm and was part of the development team for the film simulation modes in the digital cameras.
Oh, wow.
The same guy is still there.
Wow.
After all these years.
Stephen Sharp is in the chat room, and he said something similar. He said, let's bring this up. He said many of the Fujifilm profiles, for example, Provia, Velvia, Acros were developed by the same scientists at Fujifilm that developed the actual film stock. And you're saying, Wayne, you could take that S off of there, right? It's the same scientist, the same guy.
One of the main guys that developed the original film stocks. They're still there, and they did. When the company moved into the digital world, they just brought him over and said, "Bring your magic to the digital side." Obviously, I'm elaborating on that a little bit.
Do you feel like are they accurate? I mean, having so much experience with the actual film stocks, do the digitals do them justice?
Yeah, I think they do. I haven't done a side-by-side comparison, but yes, I think they do. I mean, when I shot it in digital and I shot a scene in Velvia, it just warmed my heart a little bit, just gave you a little warm feeling inside because it was familiar. Yeah, it was familiar. It just brought back that love affair from the analog days. And there I am shooting it on an analog style camera with analog dials, analog aperture ring, with a tiny little body that kicks out this amazing punch.
And you have every film stock you could ever have wanted at your fingertips.
And more. And more. And you can still change those as well. That's the benefit. You can still create
every ISO too, right?
Every ISO.
And then you can make your own, you can tweak in camera, which is what I do. If I'm shooting macros, I put a yellow filter. I'll bump up the highlights one. I'll bump up the shadows one. And I make it look the way I want it to look in camera. That's why I shoot JPEG.
And I do a +2 and nearly a +3 and +4 on shadows. Yeah. So really punch those out.
That's crazy.
So see the options we've got.
Why do you guys think it is that so when I think Fujifilm, I think film, right? Mm-hmm. So especially because I used to shoot film in the day as well. So I think those green boxes, with the transparent film canisters in there or translucent film canisters in there. And it's slightly more expensive than Kodak film. That's what I've
still got some in my fridge. I've still got some in my fridge.
Really?
Some 120 Acros black and white. 120 roll film. Yeah.
So why in your opinion? Wait, I'm gonna wait this on you, Valerie. Chime in if you want to. But why, in your opinion, was Fuji able to move so decisively and smartly, marketing wise and product lineup wise, into the space when a Kodak, who arguably was the arch enemy to a Fuji, didn't and couldn't, and they tried in some ways but failed? Why was Fuji able to succeed where Kodak failed?
Do you know what? I don't know. The only way I can sort of cast any light on that is when you go back to when digital cameras were coming in. Fuji had the little compact range, the fine picks, and they went heavily into compact cameras. Mm-hmm. There were God knows how many different models of compact cameras when digital came in. Kodak did the little bridge version, but never really expanded anymore. And then Fujifilm had almost global domination until the other brands caught up, the bigger brand names. And then obviously the industry started changing. And then I believe at one point Fujifilm, almost were in trouble at that point with the compact cameras. So I'm thinking that almost, and I am guessing here, would have probably forced them into a business remodel. Mm-hmm. And they've had to then do something more serious and very quickly and create something else. That's the only way I can see. I'm not sure if that's true or not. So then they entered the mirrorless world and started creating sort of, the X100, which is the original. And then bringing in there from the X Pro 1 and then the XT1. And they just brought the love of everything that people used to have for the systems and the film stocks and started putting them in very small little boxes that were very attractive, very beautiful, and very well priced. And look where they've gone now. I mean, they've just been doing a lot of right things the right way since. Yeah. But more importantly, I think, is they listen to their users. Yeah. We get firmware updates, we get lens firmware updates, we get camera system firmware updates that give us new spec, new performance, new features, which no other camera brand does anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Valerie,
that's key.
What do you think about that? I mean, in terms of why did Kodak fail where Fuji was able to just sort of hit it out of the park?
I have no idea, but I agree about the firmware update. Your guess is as good as mine, but as far as the what Wayne was just saying about the firmware updates, yeah, that is key. I mean, they'll come up with a new camera that has something really cool that yours doesn't have, and then instead of having to switch, to the next to that camera, they will give you the firmware update that will give you whatever that new camera has.
Features, yeah.
It's just amazing. Nobody else does that.
No. Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of Tesla and how Tesla will issue software updates to their cars to give their drivers new features that they didn't. It's just like, I'm going to work and look at this new feature I got. Now I can go 5 miles an hour faster or something. Right?
That's how you keep your fans. You give them what they want.
Yeah, and keep listening. It sounds like they listen as well, right? They're listening
still
and executing on the feedback that they get from the user base.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you only have to take sort of the, the current thing with Capture One. I mean, Capture One Pro don't support any other medium format brand in the world because they only make medium format cameras. So every other medium format brand is their competitor. Yeah. So now all of a sudden for Fujifilm to have, I mean, I know when Fujifilm were trying for a couple of years since GFX came out in the prototype stage, we're in conversations, and Capture One were not interested at all about opening that platform up or joining any relationship. Yet here we are today, another world record smashed. Another world first smashed. They all the right things. They make a lot of people happy. And the XT3 is now, that's just come out, that is a super beast in terms of video performance and additional features, is launched now at a price cheaper than the original XT2 launched.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
So they're feeding. It's like the Fuji user base is like a koi pond, and the engineers are just throwing bread in there every now and then. You guys are,
I mean they're just leaping ahead with performance and speccing cameras for people on all sides of the fence in different genres. The videographers and photographers. That hybrid is just becoming better and better and better. I mean the XT3's got things in it not even Sony can do, and I don't mean it can do, but it hasn't got those features in it. Yeah. So, I mean, they've really stepped up the game more than people thought they were going to in current releases. So that for the end user is amazing.
Well, speaking of stepping up game, Nikon and Canon are stepping up game, right? They finally, after watching everyone frolicking in the pool for years, they finally jumped into the pool. Does that worry you guys at all, or does it excite you that there's more competition out there for Fuji?
Competition is good.
It's good. Yeah, it's always good because it pushes all the manufacturers. But I mean, how did Canon take so long?
They should get it right. I mean, everybody else did their homework for them.
That's what I kept saying, right? It's like, how can you
must be really, really good.
Yeah, just save as and change the name, man. That's
I don't get how, like Canon, which is, in the DSLR world is the biggest giant of all manufacturers. I think, what are they? They own 60% of the whole DSLR market, something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
See how slow they've been to step up to the mark that Sony has dominated on the video side, especially with the A7 series and Panasonic on the Micro Four Thirds. It's like, wow. And then they released that R, and there's a lot of people talking about a lot of bugs with it, and everyone's moaning about the one card slot thing. And,
Although,
why would you do that?
On the Nikon side, with the Z series, one of our frequent guests on the show, Troy Miller, he does our critiques with me, and he got the Z, or the Nikon
2, didn't he?
The Z7. Yeah, he got one in his hands, which I believe he sleeps with under his pillow, and then kicks his wife out of the room so that you can make room for the camera. And then he ordered the other one that he's going to send in and have an infrared modified, because he shoots infrared as well. So
okay.
It's but he seems to be very, very happy with it. He's posted some shots to our TWiP Pro community, and they're amazing, straight out of camera, amazing, like what you guys are saying about Fuji.
Yeah. Was he a Nikon shooter before that?
Yes.
Okay, so already he's got that love in the family already, so he's naturally going to gravitate towards.
He's definitely in the target demographic for Nikon, who they built this for, is it people that they want to move to mirrorless, but they don't necessarily want to move brands, right?
Yeah.
Boom, Interesting. All right, so TWiP, for folks in the chat room, thank you. I see there's a lot of activity in there. Go ahead and throw your questions in there now because we're going to get to them after this pick of the week segment. Just go ahead and put your question in there, and I'll pull them up, and we will answer them. Just for both of your edification, the pick of the week segment is a segment on TWiP where you guys get to recommend anything you want to the This Week in Photo audience. It could be one of your workshops, it could be a technique, it could be a mindset, it could be a book, software, hardware, anything. So go ahead and do that. Also, in the chat room, thank you for all the likes that you guys have given us. If you haven't liked us yet, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. That helps This Week in Photo, a real one, Wayne. Click the button on the graphic in the video.
Yeah, it's helping people along.
Yeah, everyone's doing this to their screens all over the world. No, give us a click thumbs up to help This Week in Photo get noticed, and it helps us keep the show going and all that. So let's jump into the picks of the week segment, guys. Like I said, this is a segment where you guys get to recommend something to the TWiP audience. Wayne, I'm going to let you go first because you're new here. This is your first time on This Week in Photo. So what is your pick of the week for your maiden voyage on TWiP?
Well, mine's just going to be a selfish one, I'm afraid, because I'm trying to plug the absolute crap out of it, and that's Podlemania. so you.
I love the name. Cool.
Yeah, spell that for us. What is it? Spell it.
Yeah, that's Podlamania. Podlemania.
And if I'll link to it. We'll link to it.
Yeah, cool. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I mean, there are links on my social media where you can click to pre-subscribe already. And there are some free giveaways as well. We will be doing free giveaways of little things. The first one is like a filter adapter ring set for your lenses and stuff. So
yeah,
that'll be going up. But you can go to episode 12 on my YouTube channel. It's a little intro at the end of there, and the links are all in there as well, where you can subscribe to the mail list. So yeah, Podlemania. I say it lots of times as well.
Where does the name come from? What does the name mean?
It doesn't. Yeah, I had a long time thinking about that. People said, oh, you should make it, the name specific to your podcast. It should be saying what you're doing. And then other people said, no, it doesn't have to be. And I thought about it for a while and go, no, I'm going to make it completely different. I want something that's memorable, that rolls off your tongue, that I can ingrain in people's subconscious by repeating it lots of times. Podlemania, Podlemania, Podlemania,
Yeah.
And,
and the other thing is you can change
merchandise.
You can change the show later, and you won't have to worry about the name.
Exactly, huh?
Yeah, like shows with photo in the name are kind of stuck in the photography genre. I'm just saying.
You're going to get a merchandise done as well. The T-shirts are already being done with the logos have already been designed and stuff. So they're looking pretty cool and bright and vibrant. So they look good on black and white merch. So that's cool. But it's going to be fun. And you already know one of the co-hosts because he's been on your show before. Obviously, the fellow buddy of mine, partner in crime, when we used to do a lot of the live shows together in terms of demonstrations when we were ambassadors for a lighting company, and that's Mr. Jake Hicks.
I knew you were going to say Jake Hicks. Yeah, I knew it. I was like, he's going to say Jake Hicks. Jake is ubiquitous. I love it. Jake is low-key ubiquitous, like gravity. He's just there.
Yeah. He might even be listening into this now because it's probably his breakfast time at this time of the morning. He's a bit of a night owl, so he's
fantastic.
Nocturnal.
That is fantastic. Well, congratulations on the show, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
thank you.
I'll link over to that in the post for this on YouTube and on thisweekinphoto.com. Valerie Jardin, you're on the hot seat.
I forgot about the pick of the week.
I know. That's why I let you go second so you can find one real quick.
My podcast, no. Hey, I'm going to be in Sacramento at the end of November.
Oh, and I'm buying you some escargot when you come up. So.
I don't eat escargot in California.
You don't want to. That's like eating sushi in mid-America somewhere, or where you live. Don't eat sushi away from the coast. Just saying.
I'm actually coming to California to see my kid. And I thought, well, since I'm there, I'm going to do a one-day workshop in Sacramento. And everybody's like, why Sacramento? Yeah. Nobody goes to Sacramento.
Hey, come on.
Frederick is there now.
Planting a flag there. Sacramento's cool. Yeah.
That's right. So I'm going to see you That's my pick of the week.
Oh, that's the pick of the week? Okay, cool. So the workshop.
So
so you have a link?
November 30th. November 30th. I think there's a couple spots left. And it was kind of a last minute decision. I'm like, I'll just do a one day in Sacramento. I enjoyed Sacramento. I was there last year.
Yeah.
And it'll be warmer than here. So it's all good.
Yeah, people don't like Sacramento. I think because people from the Bay Area don't tend to like Sacramento because the housing prices are so reasonable, and they're used to paying $1 million for a garage. In Sacramento, you could actually buy a normal house for $1 million, and that's California, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So no, otherwise, I just announced new workshops for next year. I'm excited. I'm going to be in France a lot, but I'm also added Berlin, Barcelona. That's already filled, but so it's going to be a fun year.
You should go to.
Wow.
What about Ibiza? You should put Ibiza in there somewhere.
Well, I need to keep things for vacation too.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to Cuba for my vacation at the end of this year after the busy workshop season, and I'm spending 6 days in Cuba just for me and my camera. How cool is that?
Oh, just you by yourself?
Beautiful.
It's not a family vacation?
No, it's just me. I'm actually
Dumping the family as well. That's amazing.
He's like, no, I actually want to enjoy it, so it's just me.
Just
they
me
don't
and my
want to be
babies,
around
my
me with my
X100 there.
camera. No, I'm actually going to meet up a friend who does a workshop there at the end of his workshop. So I'm going to hang out with his workshop for a couple of days and then a couple of days after that. And so that I don't have to worry about accommodations or anything. I just want it to be chill and just walk around with my camera without having to teach or anything.
I love it. That sounds cool.
That sounds amazing.
It does.
Jealous.
It does.
I'm jealous.
It does. All right, guys, let's
Made my life very sad.
let's do these listener questions. You guys ready for these?
Yeah.
Shoot.
All right, so let's see. The first one, I'm going to go reverse order because that's the way they're showing up on my screen here. Through the Mind. Let's bring up Through the Mind. I think this is just a comment. This is not a question. Through the Mind says, I was a little disappointed that the high ISO performance of the XT3 is not as good as the XT2, according to reports. Is that true?
It seems so at the moment, but it is a new sensor. It's the X-Trans CMOS 4, and it's got it's a BSI. It's a backside illuminated sensor, so it's a little bit different, and it's 26 megapixels, so a little bit different. But Fujifilm, I mean, it's their first release of this one. We know what they're like for giving us updates. They might just quash that one in a little blip with a firmware update. So fingers crossed. Obviously, I don't know that, but
right.
we only have to look at a history of firmware updates, and they resolve a lot of problems very, very quickly. So it seems to be at the moment there's seems to be the thing with it that the high ISO is not quite as clean as the XT2. So he's absolutely right.
Maybe fixable through a firmware update.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure it will be. It's their first BSI sensor, so I'm sure it will be.
All right. Next question is from Dustin Jenkins, and Dustin says, "What are your preferred settings for classic Chrome?"
Valerie.
I think I'm highlight 1.
She's got a
Plus
camera
1.
right there. Look, there it is.
Of course.
It's never far from me. Hold on. I'm looking. Highlight tone +1. And I think shadow +1 as well. Yeah, pretty easy.
Easy.
I actually use
I tweak
Classic
slightly.
Chrome for film as well. So for filming, I use Classic Chrome.
Oh,
as well.
do you?
Oh, for video. Oh, cool.
Classic
video.
Chrome is pretty special. Yeah.
All right. Next question is from Reel to Reel Productions. This is just another comment. Reel to Reel says, "Can't wait for Podlemania." Look at that.
Good man.
All
Way
right.
to be. It's going to be awesome.
Cool.
I hope.
We'll see. QNetX says, "Any thoughts on the new upcoming Zeiss camera?"
Mixed
I don't know
reviews.
anything about the Zeiss
Do
camera.
you not? This is I seen it and heard about it at Photokina. So what they've done is a fixed lens. It's got video functionality, stills, but it's got Lightroom built into it.
So it's got Android running on it then. Is it what's the operating system?
I don't know too much more than the depths of that. I've seen it. People are liking it, or the possibilities with the social media posting platforms, because you can apparently put it straight on social media from camera. you do all your editing with the Lightroom app on the back of the screen. It's I'm not sure if it's got memory cards or not, but it's got a hard drive in it. From what I remember, it's got a hard drive built into it rather than memory cards.
Hopefully SSD, right?
If that's correct. I don't even know if you can take them out or whether you just have to plug the camera in. I really don't know. I've seen a look at it. I don't think it's the prettiest looking thing. It's got a really funny shaped grip on it, but who knows, man? I don't know any more details, but
we'll have to look that up, and maybe you can talk about it on your podcast when when we find out more.
Maybe we can get somebody from Zeiss in on the podcast.
There you go. All right. Next question. Next question is from Stephen Scharf. Stephen says, for the Q&A, please ask Wayne his thoughts about the forthcoming 100 megapixel GFX 100S.
Beautiful. I've seen the concept in production.
Well, tell us what it is first. What is it? What's
so it's basically Fujifilm's GFX 50S, if you want to call it that. They're now releasing 100 megapixel version, mirrorless.
Okay.
But they have changed the body shape from what I can see of what was at Photokina. I can say I was part of the original meeting with Fuji Japan about the new GFX 50R and the 100S. And from that meeting, I was under the impression the body would be the same. But obviously, Fujifilm have released this new visual product, which was on show at Photokina, which is product in development, as it was labeled in the case. So it's got a vertical grip built into it. Does look a little bit different shape on the top plate and everything. But it is their 100 megapixel version of their medium format. Jeez. From what I can understand, the price point of that is going to be less than $10,000.
Easy. You can find that in the couch cushions. That's nice.
Yeah, but you got to think a Hasselblad X1D, which is the same as the GFX 50S, is still around $9,000 for a 50 megapixel. If you buy a 100 megapixel phase one, $18,000 to $20,000 plus.
Wow, jeez, that's
so for less than $10,000, it is actually very, very cheap. And that's a guideline.
This is not for the hobbyist, obviously. This is for people that are paying for their gear with clients, right? So
yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I would buy it for my work. 100 megapixels. I mean, you imagine that file size. I mean, the RAWs out of my GFX 50 are like 120 meg RAWs.
It might be hard on my tablet.
You might have to buy another one.
Yeah,
one for each shot.
Yeah. You know, if you look at my GFX 50, when I edit a file in there at 16-bit TIFF, that's like a 350 meg file. You imagine doing a 100 megapixel version of that, 102 megapixels.
Imagine editing that, click and wait, depending on your computer. Next question up is from Lynn Caldwell. Lynn says, any opinions on the Fuji? Let me bring that up on the screen. There it is. Any opinions on the Fuji collaboration with Samsung? I don't even know about that. So this is why both of you are only on the screen right now, because I don't know.
Can she elaborate on that?
Yeah, Lynn, if you're still in the chat room, elaborate on that, and I will go back to the to get an answer for that. Let's see. Any more questions? I'm looking in here. Scrolling up. Cool. All right, good. Looks like we got most of the questions. A lot of these are rhetorical. Let's see. Cool. I think. Oh, here's one. Okay. This is from Through the Mind. So Through the Mind says, I think he's talking to Eric. He's talking to another member. He says, how do you find the autofocus compared to the X-T2 X Pro 2? The X-T2. Do you have both of those cameras, Wayne?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So what he's asking about the autofocus.
Yeah, the comparison
between the X-T2 and X Pro 2?
Yeah, the comparison between the two. The X-T2 and the X Pro 2.
Yeah, I mean, they're very, very similar. I think any differences would be microscopic, really. But the same with the Fuji. It's got several focusing control options in there. So if you're doing, autofocus continuous or autofocus single, it depends whether you use single point or multi-point or wide tracking, and what autofocus custom mode you're using for any motion and speed will also depict. You've got to work through them all and see and get to learn. That's the important thing. Learn what they actually do and learn what they don't do. There's a prime example where people were blaming their cameras for not capturing a shot when they've probably not got the right settings on the autofocus custom modes. Learn your equipment.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna take one more question here. Through Mine says compared to the XT3, I think he was saying.
Okay, yeah. The XT3 has got 2.16 million phase detection pixels on it now. It's 4 times the number of the current models. It's got face detection virtually across the whole sensor now. And you've got 4 processors working in that camera now, not just a single processor. So, that new X-Trans CMOS 4 chip in there has got 4 processors running all that data and that information at super speed. So the autofocus tracking is much better across the whole frame now, and your face detection is better. Your eye focus, which Sony is obviously, king dog for, apart from Canon's dual pixel, Fuji has now stepped up their game also and is in the same ballpark for a lot of it. So yeah,
love it. I'm looking at Valerie, and Valerie's just glazing over there. She's like, "All this. What did you just say? Were you speaking in Wakandan or something? Because I didn't."
No, actually, I have a question for Wayne. The new GFX 50R, is that what it's called?
Oh, yes.
How big is it compared to an X Pro 2? Because I may get one later this year for a few weeks. I kind of want to know what I'm getting into. I may hate it.
What, to buy or to rent?
No, I'm just going to borrow one.
Just borrow. Oh, yeah. Cool. Borrow it. Yeah. I mean, it's actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, I think episode 13, I did a little reveal after the announcement of Photokina. Obviously, the one I've got there in that video is the prototype, and I wasn't allowed to obviously release prior to the press release. So I couldn't even release too many details about it or any imagery or anything at the time I did that video. But I do place it on the table with the GFX and with an X Pro 2.
Oh, good. Okay.
So obviously its style is very X Pro 2 on some steroids. If you want to put it that way. Yeah, exactly. So it's the same body design, the same sort of shape. You do have a pull-out screen on the back of this one, little tilt swivel, the tilt up-down screen. But it's the same stuff, dual card slots, the same functionality inside. You can also, something I requested with Fuji Japan that I wanted in the systems, because the EVFs are generally different color than the LCDs. So I've asked if we could have some sort of calibration system in there where we could make the EVF color and information look more accurate to the LCD, and they've put that information in there now. I'm sure GFX will get it on a firmware upgrade as well. So that's awesome that you can kind of calibrate those. It's a little bit wider that way than the GFX, but it's much slimmer front to back. It's medium format, so it's not going to be... Yeah,
it's going to be a little bigger than...
It's not going to be pocket-sized.
No.
But I think you'll like it. Yeah.
I may bring it on a trip later this year if I can get... I know Fujifilm USA may send me one for a few weeks or a few days, depending how many they get.
Do it. I mean, one thing you'll find weird is the D-pad's missing off the back.
Okay.
But it's a lot of touch screen and gesture control on the screen, which you can, same with everything in Fuji, you can customize to whatever you want it to be. But there's also a little knurled ring around the shutter button, which would suit you for street, is natively your ISO. So it's on your shutter button, a little metal ring around it. So you just turn that straight away, and your ISO changes straight away without going to any other menu or any other function. Okay. No, don't even take it down from your eye. So if you're a street shooter and you're set your aperture wide open and your shutter speed for capturing motion, and you only want to control your exposure with your ISO, it's right on your finger on your shutter button. Interesting. That's a cool feature, actually. I like that.
Now, Wayne, you've got a bunch of videos on your YouTube channel. Where is your YouTube channel at right now?
It's just Wayne Johns _photographer.
Oh, perfect. Easy. So you can just search for your name on YouTube and find it.
Yeah, Wayne Johns _photographer, same as my Instagram. That's the same as well. YouTube just Facebook, Wayne Johns photographer.
Look at you branding yourself. Look at that. Nice.
Pimping myself out.
Hey. All right. Well, cool, guys. Thanks for the questions, everyone in the chat room. That was fantastic. You guys rock. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for all the likes. I appreciate that. I saw those coming in. And thanks to both of you guys for coming on the show. It's been It's been a great show. Although I knew we weren't going to get to the bottom of the Fuji magic and all this stuff, because it's like, it's like chasing the horizon. You're not going to catch it. So yeah. But it's good. I mean, it's good. I love to get the different perspectives from different people that shoot the same brand of camera to get an understanding. Like I said at the beginning, Valerie, you represent the side that is going to Cuba with just that one camera and going to have a great time. And as you guys heard, Wayne is sleeping
sweating my ass off.
You're in the gear. You understand the widgets and all this stuff and what's coming, what has come, and all that stuff. So it's perfect to round out the conversation. You guys are fantastic. So let's close this off. Valerie, where would you like the TWiP audiences to go to connect with you, subscribe to you, find you, all that stuff?
Well, valeriejardin.com, ValerieJardin.com, and they'll find the podcast, the blogs, the books, the webinars, and the workshops, and all the social media.
You're so not busy. You need a vacation from yourself. That's what you need. You're trying to get away from the family. But when you get to Cuba, you're going to be there. I'm just saying.
And, I may be able to unplug because, there's not much for cell service, at least. So I'll probably be pretty relaxing.
Very
no
good.
Distraction.
Don't worry, Valerie. I'll be there as well. I'll greet you when you get off the plane.
Okay, good.
With a suitcase full of gear for you to test.
I was going to say.
FXR, 50 hour.
Wayne, what about you? Where should people go to connect and follow you?
Yeah, I'm just WayneJohns.com is my website. Instagram, as we just said, is WayneJohns_photographer. Twitter, just Wayne Johns. And YouTube is Wayne Johns_photographer. Same with Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. You guys are fantastic. Thanks again for coming on. I appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
You gave us a really good show. Very cool.
I'll see you in Sacramento.
Yeah. I'm buying you sushi and escargot. There you go.
Escargot.
Great.
Put the sushi on the escargot. Little garlic, little wasabi. It's perfect. It's a delicacy in the region. All right, folks. If you want to stay up to date with This Week in Photo, obviously, you can subscribe to our show, find all of our shows, find our community, TWiP Pro, all at thisweekinphoto.com. That's also our Twitter, that's our Instagram, etc. If you want to subscribe to our show, you can do it on iTunes. We're in Stitcher. We're in Pandora. We're all over the place. Pretty much almost the same amount of places where you can find Wayne's show. So you can find This Week in Photo there as well, or Valerie's show, I'm sure, as well. But find us, subscribe, and make sure you like this video if you're watching us on YouTube. Otherwise, it is time to take that lens cap off. This is TWiP.